Hi, my name is Elaine with Edge Desserts in Austin, Texas, and today I'm going to show you how to make a flaky pie crust. Okay, all pie dough recipes have basically the same ingredients. We have flour, we have salt, I prefer sugar, that's optional. This is a tablespoon of sugar, and then you have a fat. And then at the end you add cold water. The fat I'm going to use today is shortening. You can use a combination of shortening and butter, all butter, or if you really want to be super indulgent, you can use lard, which is excellent in a apple pie. Okay, so the first thing you do is mix your dry ingredients. This is 2 cups of all-purpose flour. I have a teaspoon of salt, so you add your salt. This is 1 tablespoon of sugar, so I'm going to add that. And then we're going to mix the dry ingredients until they're nice and incorporated. And that's pretty good. Okay, the next we're going to do is add the fat. Now, I like to add the fat in dollops. So already the distribution is taking place, and you don't have one giant blob of shortening in there. Okay, so now you've got your fat and your dry ingredients, and this is the most important part, incorporating the fat into the flour. Your hands are your best tool, so make sure they're clean. I washed mine just before we started. So you take your hands and you start working the shortening into the fat. So you pick up some flour and you just move it like that. Now the reason you want to use your hands is you have a lot more control, and ultimately what you want are at least pea-sized pieces of shortening in the flour. And the reason this makes a flaky pie crust is because the fat melts when the pie crust is cooking. When it melts, it creates steam, and the steam is what creates the flakiness, little air pockets. So that's why you don't want your fat too finely incorporated into the flour, because you're not going to get those little air pockets and make a flaky pie crust. Okay, this is, if you want to zoom in, this is about what you want it to look like. Got a few big pieces, just break those up. But the bigger the pieces of fat, the flakier pie crust is going to be. So I'm going to stop. I think that looks good. I'm going to wash my hands, and then we'll add the water. Okay, so now we have our dry ingredients mixed with the fat, and we're going to add the water. Now this recipe called for a half a cup of water, and I said before that it usually takes me a little bit more water. So I have about 2/3 of a cup here. So what I'm going to do is add the half a cup. I'm going to try to drizzle it over. What you want to do is manipulate the dough as little as possible. All you're doing is mixing it together until it will stay together. The more you manipulate dough of any kind, what you're doing really is developing the gluten, and when you develop the gluten, you make a tougher product. So nobody wants a tough pie crust. And actually that looks pretty good. You want to look and see. It's just holding together. I've got some dry bits in the bottom, but whenever I put it in my plastic wrap to chill it, it'll be great. This is perfect. Okay, next we're going to wrap it and put it in the fridge. Okay, so we have our final pie dough, and I happen to know that this weighs approximately 22 ounces. So if I'm going to divide this in half, I can use a scale and weigh out 11 ounces. So I'm going to get 11 ounces on the scale. I've got plastic wrap on top of the scale, and it doesn't have to be exact, but that's what you're looking for. It's approximately 11 ounces. I think that's going to do it. Okay, so we've got our 11 ounces. Now what you want to do is flatten it and shape it into a disc, because this will be easier to roll out. Like that. Wrap it up. I'll do the next one. other reason you want to chill the dough before you roll it out is the fat, as you roll it, will start incorporating into the flour, which will lessen those nice little air pockets when you bake. So I have 2 discs. I'm going to put them in the refrigerator, and once they're chilled, we can get them out and roll them out. Okay, so we have our pie dough that has chilled. I'm going to unwrap it, and now we're going to roll it out and get it in the pie pan. So you want to take a little bit of flour, and you want a light dusting. It's important that you're able to move the dough when you roll it, that it doesn't get stuck to your counter. Okay, so here's my dough. I'm just going to put a little bit on top so it doesn't stick to the rolling pin. I like to flatten it out and minimize it breaking at the edges because I feel like you have a more successful circle that way. Okay, a little more on the top. It feels a little bit wet. Now, don't press too hard. Start in the middle, work your way out. And you want to go in different directions. Now this is why I said it's important that you are able to move the dough. You want to try to keep a consistent thickness and don't press too hard. And you can see the variation in the dough. It's not a perfectly smooth color. That's because you have the fat that is broken up in there. Just about there. Okay, so there's our pie crust rolled out. Now, to put it in your pie plate, this is a really simple way. Fold it in half, dust off any extra flour if you can, fold it in half again, and now you have a nice little triangle. So you're going to line this up in a quarter of the pan, like that. You unfold it, and it's in the pan. Now at this point in time, it's really important to know that you're not pulling on the dough too much, because if you pull on it, it will shrink in the pan and it will draw up and go down inside the pan, and you don't want that to happen. So you want to make sure you haven't tugged it over the sides of the pan, that it really is just resting in there. Okay, then you take a knife, go along the edges, just trim it off, and there is your pie crust. Okay, you can do a really decorative edge on your pie crust if you like, and right now it is the holiday season, so I'm going to take what I trimmed off and roll it out. Try not to over manipulate it because we don't want this dough to be tough either. Get it as thin as you can and still where you're able to work with it. Whoops. And I have a all leaf cookie cutter. So I'm just going to cut some leaves and we'll decorate the edge of the pie crust with the fall leaves. Not sure how far that will get us, but let's see. So take a brush, a little bit of water, or you can use egg wash, and just lay them on there. And it bakes up really pretty. You can also take these and not use them on the edge of your pie and bake them. Sprinkle a little bit of cinnamon sugar on them. They're really, really, really yummy, yummy, yummy snacks. It was one of the things we had a lot when I was growing up and my mom would make pie. Loved it when there was some extra pie dough. And we would roll it out with cinnamon and sugar and have a snack. Alright, so you can take it, brush it with egg wash, and have a fall pie. This is Elaine with Edge Desserts in Austin, Texas. I hope you found this tutorial helpful and you have a wonderful day. Thank you.